We've all been there, haven't we? That moment suspended in time where a conversation just dies. You meet someone new, maybe a colleague from a different department, or you're at a friend's party introduced to a stranger. The conversation starts off with the usual script, a well rehearsed play we all know by heart. Hi, how are you? Followed by the classic. So, what do you do? You volley back and forth for a minute, maybe two. You learn their job title, they learn yours. You talk about the weather, the terrible traffic you sat in to get here, or maybe the quality of the complimentary snacks. And then it happens. A void opens up, a chasm of silence that feels like it could swallow you whole. You both stand there, smiling weakly, your eyes darting around the room, desperately searching for an escape route or a new topic to magically appear. That creeping, cringing, awkward silence. I've lived in that silence more times than I can count. It wasn't just at formal work events or networking sessions, which are practically designed to be awkwardness incubators. It happened everywhere. I remember being at a big family wedding, cornered by a distant cousin I hadn't seen since we were kids. We exhausted our shared memories in about 90 seconds. And then we were just two adults with the same last name, standing in a void of unspoken words. I felt it trying to make conversation with a stranger at a bar, where the loud music somehow only amplifies the quiet between you. For years, I carried this feeling with me, this deep-seated belief that something was fundamentally wrong with me. I would watch other people, the social butterflies, flitting from one group to another, weaving conversations with effortless grace. They seemed to have an endless supply of stories, questions, and witty remarks. How did they do it? Initially, my internal monologue was brutal. I blamed myself for being too shy, for not being confident enough. I labeled myself as socially inept, a term that felt both clinical and damning. I thought I was just born this way, wired for awkwardness. But then I noticed something strange, a paradox that I couldn't ignore. Around my closest friends, the people I grew up with, the people who knew me inside and out, I was a completely different person. I was talkative, I was funny, I was engaging. With them, the conversation never stopped. It flowed like a river, twisting and turning, sometimes a gentle stream, other times a roaring rapid. I wasn't shy or inept in those moments. I was the complete opposite. This realization was a turning point. It forced me to ask a crucial question. What is really going on here? How can one person possess such wildly opposite personalities? Am I some kind of social chameleon with a broken color shifter? The more I thought about it, the more I understood. I don't have two personalities. My problem wasn't a deep-seated character flaw or a chronic lack of confidence. It was a skill problem. That's all it was. I had simply never mastered the art of small talk. And that's the key word, art. Just like learning to play the guitar, or painting a landscape, or writing a poem, speaking to people, especially new people, is a skill. It's a craft that can be studied, practiced, and eventually mastered. It's not an innate gift bestowed upon a lucky few at birth. It's a muscle that anyone can build with the right exercises. So I embarked on a personal journey. I started paying attention. I became a student of conversation. Through years of trial and error, of enduring more than my fair share of awkward silences, and by carefully observing the people who were masters of this craft, I began to see the patterns. I realized that their magic wasn't magic at all. It was a technique. I deconstructed their methods, tested them in my own interactions, and refined them over time. And what I discovered was that it all boils down to three fundamental principles. Just three things you need to do to be able to speak to anyone, to navigate any social situation fluently, and to never, ever run out of things to say. And the best part, these aren't complex psychological theories that require years of study. These are practical, actionable methods that you can start implementing almost immediately. In your very next conversation, let's imagine a scenario. You're at a work event and a colleague you vaguely know mentions, I went to play golf over the weekend. Now you're at a crossroads. This is the moment where a conversation either blossoms or withers. The default untrained response for many of us would be to offer a polite but conversation ending platitude. You might say, "Oh, that's interesting," or "That sounds nice," and then nothing. You're right back where you started, staring into space, listening to the deafening sound of silence, desperately hoping they say something else to save you. This is the passive approach, where you place the entire burden of continuing the conversation on the other person. But what if you chose a different path? What if, instead of offering a dead end statement, you engaged with what they said? This is the first method, asking intentional follow up questions. Instead of a simple, "That's nice," you can dive deeper. You could ask, "Oh, really? Where do you usually play?" This simple question instantly opens up a dozen new avenues. They might name a local course you've heard of or a private club you know nothing about. Either way, you have more material. From there, the path unfolds naturally. You can ask, "How long have you been playing golf for?" This question moves the focus from the what to the how and the why. It invites them to share a piece of their personal history. This line of questioning will then organically lead to even more follow-up questions. If they've been playing for a long time, you could ask, "Wow, so you must be pretty good. Do you play competitively? Or are you part of a club?" If they're new to the sport, you could ask, "What made you decide to pick it up?" Or are you taking lessons? Suddenly, you're not just talking about a single golf game. You're talking about their hobbies, their history, their passions, their community. You've transformed a simple statement into a rich narrative. Now, let's be honest. You probably couldn't care less about golf. You might think it's a boring sport, a waste of a good walk. But that's irrelevant. Your genuine interest in the topic is not the point. Firstly, by asking these questions, you are signaling something powerful to the other person. You are showing that you are listening and that you are interested in them. You are creating the perception of genuine engagement, which is the foundation of any good connection. People love to talk about themselves and their interests. By giving them the platform to do so, you make them feel valued and heard. Secondly, and more strategically, this technique removes all the pressure from you. It eliminates those awkward pauses and silences because the conversation is always moving forward. More importantly, it gives you the power to control the conversation. When you really think about it, a conversation is simply a series of questions and answers. The person who asks most of the questions is the one steering the ship. They are the one guiding the interaction, able to take it in any direction they choose. You are no longer a passive passenger, hoping you end up somewhere interesting. You are the driver with your hands firmly on the wheel. This single shift from being a passive responder to an active questioner is the most powerful change you can make. However, asking questions is only half the battle. For this to work, you have to be asking the right questions. And to ask the right questions, you need to be armed with the right information. This is where the second method comes in, and it's a beautiful paradox. There is a common misconception that to become a better speaker, you need to speak more. You need to have more stories, more jokes, more opinions. But like so many great truths in life, the path to improvement lies in doing the exact opposite. To dramatically improve your communication, you need to actually listen more. And I don't mean passive hearing. I don't mean waiting for your turn to talk. I mean active listening. This means dedicating your entire focus to the person who is speaking. It means doing nothing else apart from listening. It sounds simple, but it's incredibly difficult in practice. How often have you been in a conversation where, as the other person is talking, your mind is already racing ahead? You're not truly absorbing their words. Instead, you're busy formulating your response, crafting your witty comeback, or planning your next story. Your brain is in preparation mode, not reception mode. This is a conversational trap. When you're only half listening, you miss the crucial details, the subtle emotional cues, the hidden threads you could have pulled on. This leads you to say something that might be completely irrelevant, slightly off topic, or worse, something that shows you weren't paying attention at all. And Just like that, you've added another gem to your collection of awkward moments. You've broken the flow and reinforced the very awkwardness you were trying to avoid. But if you commit to listening intently, everything changes. When you truly listen, you absorb the details. You hear the nuance in their voice. You pick up on the underlying emotions behind their words. This is where the best questions come from. Let's go back to the golf example. If you were actively listening, you might hear them say, I've been playing for about 10 years. But I only recently joined the club because my father-in-law is a member. A passive listener might just hear 10 years in club. An active listener hears the phrase father-in-law. That's a hook. That's a new thread. Your next question is no longer about golf. It's about family. Oh, that's great. Do you two get to play together often? Or is your whole family into golf? You've just pivoted the conversation from a hobby to relationships, a much more universal and often more interesting topic. Active listening is a sign of respect. It makes the other person feel that what they say matters. There's a famous quote that goes, most people do not listen with the intent to understand. They listen with the intent to reply. Your goal is to be different. Don't be that person. There are enough of those in the world already. Be the person who listens to understand. When you do that, you not only gather the ammunition for great follow-up questions, but you also build a genuine connection. You create a free, flowing, engaging, and more interesting conversation for everyone. You make the other person feel seen, and in our distracted world, that is a rare and precious gift. Now, you're asking intentional questions, and you're actively listening to the answers. This is the engine of the conversation. But the final piece, the element that turns a good conversation into a great one, is the cherry on the cake. This is the third method, finding a common ground. As human beings, we are wired to connect with people who are like us. We instantly click with those who share our backgrounds, our experiences, our passions, or our perspectives. Finding this shared territory is like striking gold. Sometimes, this common ground is really obvious. You both went to the same university. You both grew up in the same small town. You both have a dog. You both love the same obscure band. In our golf example, maybe you discover that you also love golf. If that happens, the conversation is easy. You can trade stories about your best shots, complain about your worst games, and debate the merits of different courses. The conversation will start flowing all by itself, powered by your shared enthusiasm. But other times, finding that common ground might be more difficult. On the surface, you might seem like complete opposites. You're an accountant from the city. They're a farmer from the countryside. You love sci-fi movies. They only watch historical documentaries. This is where your skills of asking questions and active listening become your treasure map. With enough probing, with enough genuine curiosity, you will almost always find something you both have in common. It might not be a major interest. It might be something small, something subtle. Maybe you discover that you both have a younger sister. Now you can talk about sibling dynamics. Maybe you find out you both tried learning the piano as kids and quit after 6 months. Now you can laugh about your shared lack of musical discipline. Maybe you learn that you both have a fear of spiders. It doesn't matter how small or seemingly insignificant the connection is. Once you find that thing, that little island of shared experience, your job is to steer the conversation in that direction. Latch onto it, explore it. That common ground is the fertile soil where a real connection can grow. It's the moment you stop being two strangers making small talk and start becoming two people sharing a genuine human moment. The truth is, even with these 3 methods in your arsenal, conversations won't always be perfect. There will be times when, despite your best efforts, the conversation just goes nowhere. You might meet someone who is incredibly reserved, gives one-word answers, and offers you nothing to work with. You might just not have any chemistry with the person. And in those moments, there will be awkward silences. That's just a fact of life. But the final and perhaps most important lesson is this. If and when that does happen, just learn to be comfortable with the silence. Don't panic. Don't see it as a personal failure. It's not a reflection of your worth. At the end of the day, it's just silence. It's just a brief absence of noise. Take a breath. Take a sip of your drink. Look around the room. The moment will eventually pass. The world will not end, but by following these three methods, by asking intentional questions, by practicing active listening, and by searching for common ground, you will find that those moments become rarer and rarer. More often than not, you'll be able to navigate any social setting with a newfound confidence. You'll be able to speak to anyone, and you will never run out of things to say. You will have mastered the art of conversation, and that is a skill that will serve you for the rest of your life.